What's good, Orange Nation? It's Neil Adler, your host of Syracuse Central, with another edition of our program via the Fan Arch Network. All right, folks, we're doing Syracuse football and recruiting today. And without question, the biggest storyline for Syracuse football during preseason camp has been who's going to be the starting quarterback in week one when the Orange plays Tennessee, that other Orange team, in Atlanta on Saturday, August 30th. Tennessee, by the way, is ranked number 24 in the preseason AP Top 25 poll. So, would it be Steve Angeli, the transfer from Notre Dame, or Ricky Collins, the transfer from LSU? Fran Brown said after their second scrimmage over the weekend that he would make a decision. That decision has been made. Steve Angeli, the transfer from Notre Dame, is the starting quarterback for Syracuse in week one. Pete Thamel from ESPN first reported it. I've confirmed it with my own sources. It's other media reports also had the news. Huge congratulations to Steve. I also want to give a shout out to Ricky Collins because either of these guys would be a fabulous week one starter. And do I think that Ricky Collins could get some playing time this year? Absolutely. First of all, injuries happen in football, and I don't wish that upon Steve or anyone else on the Syracuse roster or any other team out there. But we know that injuries happen in football, so that's one thing. Number two, I think both these guys could see some time because they have different playing styles. Ricky Collins is definitely more of a running dual threat quarterback. I think he's more athletic. This is just my opinion. Steve Angeli is more of a traditional pocket passer. They both have good arms. Some might say that Ricky Collins has a stronger arm. Maybe Steve Angeli has a more accurate arm. The other thing is that Steve Angeli has a little. He's I believe a year older. He's going to be a redshirt junior this year, and Ricky Collins is going to be a redshirt sophomore for Syracuse in the 2025 season. And neither of them have a ton of playing time in college, but Angeli definitely has more experience. He's got more overall experience. He also played well in a college football playoff semifinal game for Notre Dame this past year when Riley Leonard went out in the first half. Unfortunately, I believe he was in concussion protocol for a bit, and Angeli played well. I think he completed 6 or 7 passes for like 40-something yards, but he helped guide them on a scoring drive. Notre Dame was playing Penn State, and I believe Penn State was winning 10-0 at that point. He helped the Fighting Irish to a field goal, and that really kind of gave them some momentum going to halftime. Notre Dame would ultimately win the game by 3 points and would go on to the CFP title game where they lost to Ohio State. So Angeli has a little bit more experience on a bigger stage in terms of playing in a CFP semifinal, and Fran Brown is going with him. So we'll see how this all shakes out. I'm really happy for Steve. Steve transferred to Syracuse during the spring transfer portal window, whereas Collins transferred from LSU during the winter window. And in April, Fran Brown named Ricky Collins the starter, but then Steve Angeli transferred after that. And there was a lot of speculation that even though Collins was initially anointed the starting quarterback in the spring for this upcoming season, a lot of chatter. Hey, listen, why is Steve Angeli? He's gonna transfer to Syracuse because he thinks he has a good shot winning out, and he won out. And by all accounts, from what I've read online, read in media reports, analysts, etc., what they're saying is that both of them have played very well. Fran Brown and other coaches and players on the team have echoed that. And Pete Thamel reported that Steve Angeli narrowly beat out Ricky Collins. It happens, but it was a tight race, and they both have been playing well. And Ricky Collins could see time this year. Much respect. They both handled this quarterback competition with a lot of dignity, respect for one another, just like a classy young men. And it's like you have to pick one. So you do feel bad a little bit for Ricky Collins because he was named the starter in the spring, and then he's quote unquote lost that position. But I don't really look at it that way. He was named the starter before Steve came in, so that kind of changed the dynamic once Steve Angeli transferred from the Fighting Irish to Syracuse, and they both went at it, and they both played well. I'm sure Ricky is bummed but he's going to keep doing his thing because you never know. Again, with injuries, knock on wood, and just different playing styles. So maybe they'll use him for different types of schemes and sets. We'll see. But Steve Angeli, starting quarterback, week 1 for Syracuse against Tennessee in late August, less than 2 weeks away, down in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And it's going to be a fun matchup. And I'm happy for Steve. And we'll continue to follow all the big storylines from preseason camp. And I can't believe the season is fewer than 2 weeks away. It's crazy. So Steve Angeli, starting quarterback, Syracuse, week 1. Congrats, Steve. So now we're going to move to some recruiting, Syracuse football recruiting news from over the weekend. So high school football teams are just about to get started with their 2025 season. Some may have already. I don't keep tabs on every single football program across the country, but I obviously follow teams that have Syracuse football recruiting ties, and one is Miami Northwestern Senior High School in Miami. Syracuse's highest ranked verbal pledge in more than 2 decades is a star wide receiver for Miami Northwestern. His name's Calvin Russell. He chose Syracuse over Michigan, Florida State, and Oregon in early July on his birthday. He's expected to also play for Syracuse basketball, at least initially. And Miami Northwestern had a preseason game over the weekend. It was called the Kickoff Classic, I believe. They played a team, Lakeland, and it was not close. Miami Northwestern won 40-3. Okay, so that preseason, take it with a grain of salt, but it was interesting to see that result because Miami Northwestern is a very talented team. They won a state title, I believe it was the Class 3A state title in the Sunshine State this past season, and Florida is loaded with talented teams and talented players. And they're expected to make a run at another state title. They were a nationally ranked team last year. They're in preseason rankings this year. But there was some stuff swirling around the program this past offseason because their head coach from last year, who helped lead them to a title, his name is Teddy Bridgewater. And he's a former NFL quarterback that that went to Miami Northwestern and I believe that's his alma mater. And he helped lead them to a title in his first year as the head coach. And then there were media reports this summer about some alleged impermissible benefits to players, and he was suspended by Miami Northwestern. And, I don't want to get into all that because I guess rules are rules, but it seemed kind of lame, just being honest with you. But if you broke rules, you broke rules. But in any event, he was suspended, according to media reports, by the school. But then not too long ago, he ended up going back to the NFL. So they have an interim head coach. I believe it's the head coach of the JV team is going to be the interim head coach of the varsity program where Calvin Russell plays. And so, with all that stuff like kind of swirling around, a lot going on in the offseason, for them to come out, I get it's a preseason game, but to blow out this other team, and I don't know a lot about Lakeland, but if, I think they're a quality program, but they won 40-3, Miami Northwestern did. And Calvin Russell scored a touchdown. Another Syracuse, not a commit, but a recruit. His name is Nicholas Lanier. I hope I'm not butchering his last name. Nicholas Lanier. He's a 2027 5-star wide receiver. So he's basically Calvin Russell 1 year younger. And there were reports earlier this summer that Syracuse is recruiting him hard. And he plans to visit the Hill this fall. I haven't seen a date yet, but look for that to happen. And he scored a touchdown as well. So you got a Syracuse football commit in 2026, 5 stars. Calvin Russell scores a touchdown. A recruit in 2027, 5-star wide receiver scores a touchdown. And the team just kind of put this cloud over the program with this stuff with Bridgewater. They put that in the rearview mirror and just absolutely had a tremendous performance in this preseason game. And we'll obviously be keeping tabs on how Calvin does and other recruits from Miami Northwestern throughout this season. Max Preps recently named Calvin Russell the number 2 overall wide receiver in all of high school football this year, regardless of class designation. He's going to contend for All-American status. and look for Miami Northwestern to have a nice season. So we'll move from there to another story about a Syracuse football recruiting target who plays for Miami Northwestern. Okay, I love this kind of stuff. This is awesome. So, we look at Miami Northwestern over the weekend. They win this preseason game again with their interim head coach, have a great performance, and we see something online on Twitter X, whatever you want to call it. There's a shot of Tadarius Hughes, who is a 2026 four-star defensive back, and he's verbally pledged to Florida State, another ACC school. But he comes out in this game and he's wearing Syracuse gloves. Syracuse gloves, okay? Might not mean anything. Might mean something. I just thought it was cool. And it went viral, so to speak. I mean, I'm not saying there was like millions of views, but there was a lot of Syracuse football fans that saw this and posted about it on social media and in chat rooms, and we'll see. All I got to say about Hughes is he's verbally committed to Florida State. I haven't seen any indications that he's flipping, but you never know with this stuff. The early signing period for 2026 prospects isn't until later this year, usually December, mid-December, early December. But Hughes has been pursued by Syracuse football for a while. He took an official visit, I believe it was in June, to the Orange, and he's spoken highly of the staff there, including Fran Brown, who, oh, by the way, before becoming the head coach at Syracuse, was the defensive back coach at Georgia. So he knows that position group extremely well. Is it something? Is it nothing? Is it something? Is it nothing? I don't know. We'll see. I just thought it was cool that Hughes was wearing Syracuse, gloves that said Syracuse on them. Listen, maybe this coming week, or I'm not sure if, I think Miami Northwestern has a game either this week or, in the next week or two, their actual, season opener. Maybe he'll be wearing Florida State gloves and it won't mean anything. But for now, given the fact that he had Syracuse gloves on, Calvin Russell is a Syracuse commit, Hughes has officially visited Syracuse, I'm not saying it's a big something. I think it's a little something. So we'll keep tabs on that. But it would be cool if they flipped him. You never know with this stuff. And just like Calvin Russell is going to continue to be pursued by other suitors, I've been told Michigan, which was in his Final Four, again, along with Oregon and Florida State. Michigan could continue to pursue Calvin Russell. Miami, which is not in his Final Four, but was in like his Final 10 or 12. He had like a top 10 or top 12. And as a hometown team, the Hurricanes will probably try and flip Calvin Russell. So much like Syracuse has to hold on to guys, Florida State has to hold on to Hughes. We'll see. We'll see if he flips to Syracuse or anywhere else, or he could just stay locked in. Look, Florida State was bad last year, but the year before they got hosed. They should have been in the college football playoff. And if the Seminoles turn things back around and it's a local team, well, it's a Florida-based team for Hughes, maybe he stays locked in, and that's totally fine as well. Would I love to see him flip to Syracuse? Of course. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But it was cool to see those Syracuse gloves. All right, last story here. We're going to look at Bowl Watch, which is absolutely absurd right now. We're looking at, Syracuse being forecast or not forecast to play in bowl games, and they haven't even started the season yet. But that's why the summer's fun. We get preseason rankings, we get watch lists, preseason All-Americans, preseason conference power rankings, bowl forecasts. So in recent days, it was sometime last week, both CBS and ESPN updated their most recent bowl projections. And this includes the CFP as well as just all the other bowls. And if memory serves correct, ESPN didn't have Syracuse in a bowl. Okay, no big deal. Syracuse has one of the probably 5 toughest schedules in the country this year. They have the toughest schedule in the ACC. They had to replace Kyle McCord at quarterback with Stephen Jelly. They've got to replace Quinn Allen, Aronde Gatson, a whole bunch of other guys. I don't need to laundry list them here, but the point is they have a lot of key guys that either transferred out, Trevor Pena to Penn State, or exhausted their eligibility. And they've got talent on this roster, but it's a lot to replace with a tougher schedule, and a lot of their toughest games are also either at a neutral site like the Tennessee game or on the road. So if pundits aren't forecasting Syracuse to make a bowl game right now, whatevs. It's all good. But CBS did have Syracuse projected to a bowl. And it was, and I'm just looking at my notes here, it was the Fenway Bowl, which is obviously in Boston, against Navy out of the American Conference. Used to be the American Athletic. I think they just changed it to the American Conference. Okay, cool. First of all, I want Syracuse to be in the CFP, and if that's not going to happen, I want them to be in a warm weather bowl, although Boston's one of my favorite cities. So, take it with the proverbial grain of salt. At least it was cool they were projected. That game is in late December in Boston at Fenway Park. Cool. Navy, Navy's a good team. They were 10-3 last year, just like Syracuse. They beat Oklahoma in their bowl game. They were just outside the top 25 polls, and they've got votes in the preseason coaches poll and the preseason AP poll. Navy received votes in both of them. Syracuse, by the way, only received votes in the coaches poll, not in the AP poll. Navy looks to be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the American. Tulane's up there, Memphis. But Navy's going to be good. So, is that the bowl game I want to see Syracuse in? No. I want them to be like in the CFP or one of the, top tier bowl games where ACC teams are participants. But hey, listen, they're still forecast by CBS to be in a bowl game. Cool. It is what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. When we see other bowl forecasts come out and Syracuse isn't included, it's all good. They just got to win week to week, and you'll see where all this stuff. But again, it's something to talk about, and so I'm talking about it. So Syracuse forecast to the Fenway Bowl against Navy, and that's going to be the wrap for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll keep having more stuff regarding Syracuse football recruiting, Syracuse basketball. The season's slowly inching towards us, as well as Syracuse basketball recruiting stuff. I've always got stuff going on with that as well. But certainly a lot of Syracuse football stuff right now with the season fewer than 2 weeks away. Hope you've been enjoying the show. Feel free to leave me comments, suggestions where I goofed up. Hey, I got a thick skin. Call it like you see it. But I'm having a good time so far, and I hope you're enjoying listening. So this is Neil Adler, the host of Syracuse Central via the Fan Arch Network. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care, and have a great rest of the day.